I just want to welcome everyone to our Master Cheese class. I am Ali DeBold. I'm co-founder of ChickAdvisor.com, and we are so excited to be here with Dairy Farmers of Canada. Can we get a little applause for everyone? Yay! I also want to welcome our amazing celebrity chef, Christine Cushing.
Thank you.
Such a thrill to have you.
Thank you.
And of course, we are all here because of our love of Canadian cheese. So there's a few things I wanted to share with you, but most important, when you are shopping for cheese, you want to support your local dairy farmers. And Canadian cheese is the best cheese. So the thing to look for is on the package, you know that little blue cow, that cute little cow? That is your guarantee that the cheese contains 100% Canadian milk, which is known for its purity, quality, and amazing taste.
Fantastic.
So without further ado, I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. So I really wanted to, first of all, welcome everybody at home. Welcome you ladies in the studio. This is really exciting because it is the thing that I love the most. It's cooking live in front of an audience, but also with you at home. So we're going to do this together. I say at home, you can start already on your salad recipe, the beautiful baby arugula. Have some fun with the dressing. If you didn't find vin cotto, you can use just balsamic vinegar. The whole point of cooking is the recipe is a guideline. I always say that. So we're going to make 3 recipes. You can start on the salad. After that, you can do your burgers. And I think at the end, you can start making your dessert. So I've talked about, we're doing a baby arugula with halloumi croutons in a citrus olive oil vinaigrette. We are making some beautiful grilled turkey burgers featuring smoked Canadian cheddar that has a lovely kind of maple flavor to it. And the cheddar is actually going to go in the burgers as well as on top of it. So how great is that? Then last but not least, you ladies at home will be making this from scratch. You ladies here, I'm going to be making it for you. Some things, you know, have its advantages, right? It's all about dessert, right? When you're talking about girls getting together. Mascarpone is the cheese that's featured in the dessert, and I love mascarpone. So if you've ever had tiramisu, you've had mascarpone. So if you can't find Canadian mascarpone, I would say you can use a cream cheese. It's a good alternative. It won't be as rich and creamy, but it certainly will work. It'll be just a little bit thicker. So look for the Canadian mascarpone first. If not, you can go with the cream cheese. So let me start on the salad and the things I wanted to share with that. So halloumi is, Canadian halloumi is a great cheese. It's made in the style of a mozzarella. And essentially, mozzarella is made in the style that's called pasta filata. So it's a pulling of the cheese and kind of bringing it back together. That's what makes it so melty, ooey gooey. In halloumi, though, it does not melty. It's unbelievable. So you can put it on the grill. You can bake it. Here I'm going to do something quite unusual, is turn it into a crouton. So I'm actually going to fry it, and you get this amazing crisp outer and lovely tender inside. So no further ado, let's make some halloumi croutons, okay? So ladies, for you, I'm going to just demo a few things, and then I'm going to have you go ahead and make it at the end, because it's going to be hard. You know, you're going to want all the tips, and then, because it's going to get rowdy in here. I mean, 25 women cooking, hello, we won't be able to hear a thing. So, and that's how it should be, right? Like a big family. So I want you to work in teams of 6. Each team of 6 will be making 6 burgers and a whole portion of the salad, and then I'm going to be providing the dessert, the little tarts at the end. So I wanted to share with you some great things. You got to start with a phenomenal olive oil. If you don't have a great olive oil, your salad will be not even mediocre. It will be just not tasting great. The olive oil is the main ingredient in your dressing, so you want that to feature its beautiful nuances and really pair so well with these halloumi croutons. Why did I pick baby arugula? Arugula is fantastic. This is an organic arugula. It's beautiful and peppery, so it's a great contrast to all the other flavors going on. And contrast is a word that you're going to hear chefs talk about a lot. You want contrast in texture, you want contrast in flavor, and you want it to just have a party in your mouth. What you don't want is to have a million different flavors going on so that it gets confusing. So here these are going to join beautifully together. Citrus notes, both in oranges and lemons. Beautiful, my extra virgin olive oil. A little Dijon mustard for some body. Vin cotto is basically grape must, and then it's reduced and cooked down. If you've never tried it, love, love, love vin cotto. If you can't find vin cotto, balsamic vinegar is a good alternative. It's a perfect balance between sweet and sour. You just want to add a little bit of that. So let's get some just so you know, don't put your hands in a hot pan when it's on. Just, you know, that could be a good tip for you at home too. Oh man. So cooking for me is always an adventure, and I use that word adventure in the greatest of ways. I think that we're in this dichotomy in the world now where cooking is everywhere, but people sort of see it as a chore. And to me, cooking is fun. Cooking, you can learn so much. Cooking is you can share it with the family and kind of get together and make these great dishes. So that's the feeling that we really want to have today. Somewhere here I had, oh, here it is, the halloumi. So look at this Canadian halloumi. It's got a really nice texture. It's firm, and we just diced it into kind of 2 inches or so, and that's how you ladies are going to do it at home. You've got a nice little skillet there. And the key is to get your oil a little bit hot. And I'm actually frying in olive oil here because perfect temperature for frying between 350 and 360. A good olive oil has a great smoke point of up to 420 degrees, depending on the quality. The better the quality, the higher that smoke point is. So how am I going to get, how did I come up with these halloumi as croutons? I wanted to showcase the ability of this cheese to kind of hold its texture under heat. So grilling it is one way, you can put it on skewers. But here I thought, wouldn't it be great, so if you're gluten-free, you wouldn't use semolina like I'm using, but your recipe has cornmeal, and that's fully gluten-free. So this is going to be in lieu of your bread crouton, you've got a great cheese crouton. So shallow pan, and I'm just going to toss these in here to give it a little nice outer coating. Okay, tossing. And the quantities again in the recipe are just to give you an idea of how much you need. It depends on the vessel that you're going to use. Once my oil is hot, and I'm just shallow frying here, I don't need a lot of oil for this. It's the first time I did it, and I actually had people taste it. They were just blown away. So this cheese also, as a flavor profile, is a little bit salty, almost like a feta. But the texture is very different. So you want to make sure you counter that with not adding, really, I probably wouldn't add too much salt to the dressing. It's all about the balance, right? What do you think? Is it ready to fry? Shall we fry up some croutons? Okay, we're going to fry up some croutons. So you guys can go ahead and do that at home. And I'll give you a little trick. If you want to know, you know, obviously you have oil, you don't want to throw water in it or know when it's ready. You just take a wooden spoon and you put your wooden spoon into, sounds like, are we cooking some wood? No, we're not. So you put your wooden spoon in, and if you see like little bubbles, your temperature is perfect. So that's a great little trick just to find out if your oil's at the right temp. Now, I've got my oil at the right temp. If it's too hot, the cheese is going to burn right away. So I just want to make sure of that. And I take it right off the heat and make sure I don't have too much extra either cornmeal, or remember, if you're gluten-free, you're going to use cornmeal. Otherwise, fine semolina is a perfect combination or substitution. I hear the sizzle. Do you ladies hear the sizzle in here? Another key, how do you balance and how do you master, because this is a master class, how do you master the temperature? It's all about the shape of your pan, the temperature, and how much you're going to put in there. So if you notice here now, I'm going to come over here so you guys can see. I know you don't have the full benefit of seeing this. I have it at about a medium heat now, but if my temperature is too low, they're going to get soggy. So it's a bit counterintuitive. If the temperature is too low, it's going to absorb way more oil. So here, I've got a little bit of empty space in my pan. That's what I want. I don't want to crowd it. So you want to make sure you have the right size pan for the right thing. Now look, check out already. I want to show, oh man, so great. Now this is an induction burner, so as soon as I take it off the heat, that's going to turn off. But I wanted to show you, look at the color that you get right away on these croutons. Is that not phenomenal? Right away. So I want to make sure that my oil doesn't cool down too much and get it going there. And just flip these guys over. So what I'm going to say at home is when you're making this salad, you want to make your dressing, have your salad ready, and you can buy pre-washed, it's a no-brainer, and just fry these up just before you're going to serve it, right? So I would say it's super easy. It's just about getting some technique. And once you got the technique going, you will become the queen or king of making this salad and this fried halloumi. But look at the color and the texture of these croutons. Come on. Right away, does that look great or what? You can hear that sizzling. And also, you got to use all your senses when you're cooking.
So we
Please
do
go
have
ahead.
a Twitter question,
Yes.
which is it okay to use coconut oil?
Oh, that's a great question. Absolutely, you can use coconut oil for this. It would be great. It's going to add a little coconutty flavor, but I think it's a great idea.
Great, or olive oil would work as well?
Olive oil would work as well.
Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect.
Thank you for that question. And remember, at home, you know, it's not often that you have somebody for 2 hours to be able to answer all your questions. If something else comes to your mind, how do you get your husband or boyfriend to relinquish the grill? I can't answer that question because I'm a chef and my husband's like, get away from the grill. I said, what are you talking about? I'm grilling. No, you're not. So we have some fun, to say the least. So how did you like that idea of the croutons, the cheese as croutons? Isn't that great? Now we're going to move to the burgers. So for me, burgers they have multiple components. So burgers are about what meat are you going to use, how much are you going to fuss with it, what cheese are you going to use, and then how long you're going to grill it. I went with turkey because I'm doing a couple of different things here. How I add moisture to this meat is not only by the cheese, but I'm also going to do, and you ladies are going to do it too, look at the size of this mushroom. It's an umbrella. Look at that. It's raining. I can actually use this. That is one heck of a mushroom. So this is a portobello mushroom. I take the stem off, and if you want, this is another great trick. These are called the gills, these little brown guys in here. And sometimes the gills can add a tinge of gray to something. So before you're going to grill or saute your portobellos, you just remove the gills with a spoon. You just take them out like that. And that's just one of these. Again, it adds a little bit of finesse, and it's going to give you like the best thing. You want to be the best that you can possibly be if you have time. So what I'm going to do then is chop up that mushroom, and I'm going to saute it with a chopped onion. What that does is, to take you kind of to my Greek brain, because sometimes I add a lot of Greek things in there. When we make burgers in Greece, we always add tons of fresh herbs and tons of onions. That adds moisture and flavor to it. So here, rather than adding the raw onion, and you don't want to get that sort of repeating factor, because going back to my husband, it's not all about him, but let's talk about him for a while, shall we? He always, that's the way he says, this was delicious, because I am not tasting it 5 days later, like the whole day. When you cook down the onion, it's going to make it more tender, sweeter, and soft. And then I cool that mixture down. I add it right to the turkey mixture with lots of chopped fresh herbs. When I was thinking of this, I thought, what goes well with turkey? Sage. Feels like kind of like a fall thing, but sage and rosemary, ridiculously good with the turkey. And you really have that feeling that, oh, it's a stuffing. It's kind of, that was where I was going with it. But then when you add that smoky cheddar with a little bit of maple, let me tell you, magic happens. So I would say at home, make sure you wash your herbs, chop them up finely. You don't have to worry too much. You don't have to make it too crazy with that. But while we're here, and remember I told you it was going to get a bit crazy, right? Let me show you how to properly chop an onion. So here's where your knife, I didn't bring my knives, but I'm hoping that our knives are sharp here. So the thing about chopping an onion properly is, what we've done here is they've taken off the stem, so the root of the onion. You don't want to do that. So this is kind of a commercial thing. People in a hurry, they just cut them off. By leaving that stem, so you peel your onion, but you leave that stem intact, because that stem holds it all together. So that sort of part at the end, you just trim it, but you leave it intact. And then peel it. I'm going to cut it in half. And so this would be my stem end right here. That would be the stem end. By not cutting it off, it's going to hold together as I chop, right? And that's going to be away from me. I'm going to curl my fingers under like this. And the key is, it's always good. If you had 10 fingers when you started, you should have 10 fingers at the end. I aim for that generally. And it has happened. I've had a few more burns than I would like, but hey, what are you going to do? And now you're going to go along the grain of that onion, okay? So This is like typing class. You know, when I was in typing class, I'm aging myself, 102 years ago, but it comes in handy now. If you cheated and looked, you're one of the finger typers. But if you took the time to just say, okay, it's gonna take me a little bit more time, but now you can blind type. It's the same with this. Take a little bit more time. You're gonna follow this. See, your fingers are this way because no matter what, if this knife slips, you're not gonna hurt your fingers. If you extend your fingers and the knife slips, you're gonna really hurt yourself, okay? So you're just gonna go straight down and follow the onion the way that the grain of that onion. Now, you're gonna now go parallel to your work surface. Before we were going down, now we're gonna go parallel to our work surface. At this point, we're gonna extend our fingers out because again, anywhere you slip, you wanna make sure you have that. So I just do that a little bit and you're gonna make probably 3 or 4 little cuts. So remember what I said, if you cut that part off at the end, it will fall apart. I'm holding it together now, but for you it'll be more challenging. And now is when we take it home. We just go down and chop it. So you hear how loud that is. I know that my knife isn't super sharp, but there it is. That's the perfectly chopped onion. Takes a little bit of time to learn, but once you master that, your husband, boyfriend, anybody, any girlfriends who can't do this are gonna be like, you can do it, you're really good at it, okay? So now my board is onion christened, so anything else that I chop on here should be herbs, things like that. Good note at home. Cutting boards, I always say plastic cutting boards for meat and fish and poultry. Wooden cutting boards for everything else. Wooden cutting boards are very forgiving on your knives. They're really great. You can actually scrape them off. So why were butcher blocks always wood? You add a little salt, you brush it off, and you can actually scrape off that dead layer on top. Wood is a living thing. It kills all the bacteria on the surface. It's really a misnomer that all your boards should be plastic. But when you're dealing with fish and that sort of thing, like in a hotel or a restaurant, this would be red or blue just to kind of color code it and know that, okay? So, and always good to know, raw with raw, cooked with cooked, you never want to cross-contaminate. That's where all of the challenge comes. Let's talk about our turkey. I want to make sure that when you go and buy turkey, you're going to ask for dark meat, so ground dark meat. If you're just going to use the breast meat of the turkey for this kind of thing, it'll be more dry. So any opportunity, add a little bit of dark meat. It's really going to add moisture and tons of flavor, okay? We have a question.
We have actually a bunch of questions. Mama Mia wants to know.
Mamma mia, I love that.
Why do my cubes stick to the bottom of my pan? I always have this issue with the cheese.
The cheese, why do they stick to the bottom of her pan? So has she properly coated it in something? So you want to make sure that you coat it, and you want to make sure that it's also not wet. A lot of the time, so this cheese will be in a little bit of a brine solution. If the water goes in there, they will sink to the bottom and stick. So probably 3 things. Pan is not hot enough. Probably there was some moisture in the cheese, and she didn't keep moving it around, and make sure that it's properly coated, okay? So you notice that I was swirling it around, always keeping it in motion.
Perfect. Okay, next question. Heather M. Howard says, can I use cooking wine instead of balsamic vinegar?
Can you use cooking wine?
Instead of balsamic.
Instead of balsamic vinegar. I would say that if you're not going to use, you can use some cooking wine. Yes, you can. And yes, you can do that, absolutely, for this purpose. Yes.
All right. And then one more question about the halloumi, and then there's just a couple more.
Sounds good.
What's the best pan for frying halloumi? Non-stick, ceramic, stainless steel?
I would say stainless steel. Non-stick is okay because you're actually not going to go too high. So I would say if you have a non-stick, again, making sure you don't put it on high. So if you're going to use a non-stick pan, go to a medium setting and then let it come to temperature. Never put the pan on empty. I know these questions. This is like a good, can I answer in Twitter? No, I can't. I have to leave out way too many details. But lower temperature, leave it on longer with the oil in, and then make sure you shimmy it around.
Perfect. Okay,
Yes.
Final question.
Yeah.
Corey Lehman wants to know, could we add a bit of maple syrup to the meat to get the maple flavor and use old cheddar?
Oh, yeah. See, that's being fearless. I say 100%. Absolutely, you can go ahead and do that. And I think with all these flavors, with the sage, with the mushrooms, with the rosemary, that will be what I call fearless in the kitchen. Love it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, carry on.
Thank you. So now dessert. So the recipe is going to be a lemon mascarpone tart with a chocolate cookie crust. Yum, yum. Wow. See, this is what I'm saying. Shall we start with the dessert? Why did I even go with anything else? I don't even know. Hello. So while we get those ingredients measured up, we're going to go to the sabayon, the filling, or in Italian, it's zabaione. So it depends on who you ask, but you know, sabayon is the French term, and Italians use zabaione all the time. I mean, some kids are fed zabaione as a breakfast. My friend who's Italian said when he was 6, his mom would give him marsala, sugar, and egg yolks for breakfast. And one day the teacher called her in and said, Mrs. X, I really need to speak with you. And she said, what's the problem? And she said, I think your son is drinking and I really don't like it. And you know, I don't understand how a 6-year-old can have alcohol in her bread. And she's like, well, I gave it to him. So they thought, oh my God. But the zabaione, it's a little bit of marsala traditionally and some sugar and egg yolks. But it's such a simple dessert when you just have it on its own. What I think happened is probably the Italians started making zabaione and then the French perfected it and called it sabayon. I don't know, maybe it was happening at a parallel time. So for me, sabayon, or a perfect sabayon, is all in the arms. It's all about getting that muscle. Thank you so much. It's all about how do I get the proper temperature. So this is what we call a double boiler, or a bain-marie. And you've got water underneath that should never be rapidly boiling, and that water should never touch the bottom of your bowl. So that's going to sit there. You want a great whisk. This is a balloon whisk that's really nice and flexible. Thank you. And this is where you're going to whisk air into this sabayon or zabaione. Now, fear not. If you feel at some point, and you might feel it at the 6-minute mark, that your arms are getting a bit sore, don't worry. If you don't get the air mounted into you, it'll turn more into a curd. That will also technically work. This will just mount it more and become more fluffy. So it's completely, I'm not saying it's completely up to you at home. I would say try to do it. But if you can't, you know, you can go for it the next time. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. All right, so zabaione or sabayon. So usually, the way I learned it in cooking school is you do 1 egg yolk per half shell of sugar. So even if even if you're camping, you can figure this out. You crack your egg. I don't know who's going to make sabayon camping, but I probably would. I'll tell you that right now. That's just the amount, and the same amount of alcohol or any kind of, usually marsala. In this case, this is lemon juice going in. And is this the, oh, this is the good stuff. So this limoncello is ridiculous, is all I'm going to say. And I thought, I did get a question actually yesterday, somebody at home asking, sorry, whisking and talking is very loud. So if you don't want to make this with limoncello, I might do a little Grand Marnier, maybe keep it in that sort of citrus family. You could also do marsala. It's just going to give it a more sweet as opposed to tart flavor, and that enhancing it. So you see what happens here, right? The first time I was working in the kitchen and making a sabayon. You know, this is how I was whisking it, like this. So, you know, you're whisking. And then the chef comes over and is like, what's the matter with you? In other words than that. And says, so what you're looking for, the professional way, is a figure 8, and you want to create really air in here. So you're really keeping that whisking. So as it's heating below, and let's make sure it is heating below, it is, you want to create that whisking. So I'm going to put the limoncello in as well, and keep whisking that. If you want it a little bit fluffier, you can add a little bit more alcohol. If you like it a little bit denser, you can add a little more egg yolk, okay? So the idea is whisk, whisk, whisk like that, and you just change hands. And then you'll realize cooking, actually, you don't need to even go to the gym after a while. You do everything. You run around because it's insane. And then you use your arms constantly. So this is going to take about 7 minutes. So what will happen, if I want to make this, like I said before, and turn it into more of a curd, I don't have to whisk it so vigorously over the stove. What makes it that zabayon or sabayon is that whisking and aerating it, okay? So I'm going to show you what happens after we cooled it down. Somewhere I have a bowl. That's the one, thank you. So this one was made more like a curd. It had settled, so you can see it's really cool. All I want to do with that is, let's say, so you can see that this is firm, right? I'm just showing this here. Oh no, no. Always make sure you have clean spoons. So this is very firm. This one turned out more like a curd, but it's okay. I can just stir it together, and then I'm going to fold in the whipping cream and the mascarpone, and that's what's going to make that beautiful lemony flavor. So key is when you're in a kitchen and when you're tasting, you always have your spoons in your jacket here, and you put one spoon in there and then the other spoon, and then this is how you taste. So you can keep tasting with this, and this can keep going back in here, so you're not double dipping. Okay, that's the technical way of doing it. So what you're going to look for after about 7 or 8 minutes is what's called the ribbon stage. I don't want to keep whisking here because it's going to be just really noisy, and you're going to be like, oh man, how long will she whisk for? But that's what I want you to look for at home. Make sure underneath the water is not rapidly simmering, and you know, whisk, walk away, whisk, come back, but keep that motion going. Now I want to show you how to make the actual filling or the dough. So cold butter for pastry, this is more like a cookie dough, like a short pastry. Thank you so much. It's awesome. Thank you. Half a cup is there. I always want to make sure that that's cold, and I just cut it into small sort of bits like that, and don't touch it too much with my hands. So when you start to do pastry and make any kind of pastry, once you're on it, you should just go and do it. Don't fondle it. I'm just saying. There's other things to fondle, not the dough. And going back to that, when I was in cooking school in France, I had this amazing chef instructor, and they taught all in French, so they couldn't speak English. So he would always say, vous American, and we're like, chef, we're not American. It doesn't matter, you Americans, you know, you love to touch the pastry. I'm like, what are you talking about? You love to touch the pastry, vous American. I'm like, wow. So, but what I learned from him is, don't touch the pastry too much. Warmth of your hand, that will melt the butter out, and that will create a tougher dough. So I have butter, flour. This is the one time, remember I said I should be following the recipe. Pinch of salt, which I have right here. And the key is just a pinch of salt, and that's just bringing out the flavors. That's just balancing everything out. Let's see, this was a good bowl. And I'm gonna go with the icing sugar, which is this. And actually we wanna put the cocoa in there as well. And we're gonna do what's called pulsing. So pulsing, is just going to start, if you were making this by hand, it's starting to break the butter into what we call coarse meal. You've probably seen that in recipes. It says pulse the butter until it looks like coarse meal. I want to show you what that looks like. So coarse meal looks like this. So you're just going to have pieces of butter, but it's totally broken up. You see, you can't really see big pieces of it. That's what coarse meal looks like. Notice I haven't touched the butter again with my hands. So that's what's going to make for a wonderful, let's see. Everybody's got their own little, there it is. That's good. Pulsing. Yes, good. So now I take icing sugar in this bowl and 1 egg, which is right here. And I always crack my egg on the side of the counter because that's how I was taught. It just helps to prevent the more shards of the egg from cracking. That's my preference. So now see here how this is bubbling? So what's going to happen? Just as a note, sometimes you start making this and then you start doing something else, what can happen? It looks like it's boiling. Oh man, the world's coming to an end. But you know what? You take it right off the heat. Do not panic. Let me do the panicking. Do not panic. And you'll see that at the bottom it started to cook a little bit. So you want to take it right off the heat. Do a little whisking. Like that, and just bring it back to life. So if you don't see literally scrambled eggs in there, bring it back to life. It's all good. Okay, and then a good thing, again, here you're just looking for flavor. You know, if I don't keep whisking it steadily, it's not going to be light and fluffy. But this is, see how I totally saved that? It looks like it was going to burn, but it's not quite ready yet. Okay, so we're good there. I'm making sure I turn it down. So now in here, I've got my egg, and I've got that little bit of icing sugar. And this is, we're making a sweet dough, or a pâte, in French, a pâte sucrée. So a pâte sucrée, you may have heard of a pâte brisée. A pâte sucrée is more like a cookie dough, and a pâte brisée is more like a pastry or a pie dough. I like to make the pâte sucrée in the food processor because it's just, it never ever fails you. Ladies, do you have a rubber spatula, please? Wow. Thank you so much. All right, so in there, it's all gonna go in together. Again, it's what I used to do. So imagine as a pastry chef in a restaurant, you make a ton of this because this is sort of the base, not particularly the chocolate one, but generally speaking, you make a lot of tart things. I'll keep this one. So I would make a ton of this, portion it up into little discs and put it in the freezer. So you can do that equally at home. So at the point where it looks a little bit grainy, it looks a little bit like, oh, I don't know, does it look like it's coming together? Not quite, right? So what I do with that is, now I'm gonna just turn it on to a board, and it looks like a mess at this point, right? But with a couple of turns of the hand, you have magic. Okay, so look at how fantastic that is. That is such a simple little way to make dough. So here's another, what I came up with this because, again, when you make a lot of this in a restaurant, it becomes really challenging. You want to cool it down, and then all of a sudden it's cracking. We've all had that happen at home, right? So rather than roll it into a ball, I roll it into a disc like this. Touch it not as much. Ne touchez pas la pâte, remember? No fondling. And then I'm going out of frame. I'll be back. Don't worry, I'm coming right back. My plastic, there it is. So plastic wrap like that, chilling. When you're making pastry, you gotta be very cautious and not in a rush. So maybe you're thinking, I'm just gonna roll this right now. You don't wanna do that. Put it in the fridge, cool it down for about 20 minutes or so. It's not gonna take longer than that. This one has been out here too long, so we'll see what happens if I can roll it. That's what we're gonna see now. So you can do what's called bench flour. You always have a little bit of flour here. And this is about half of that guy that I did. So that same disc that you saw, this is about half of it. So here, you're gonna see how easy it is to roll it. Little bit of flour in your hand, and this is my husband's favorite. Oh, can we get some flour on the counter, not on the floor? I'm like, this is how it is. What am I gonna do? A little bit on top, and a little bit on your rolling pin. And because it's flat like that, get out your frustration. Who's gonna listen to me now? There it is.
I'm gonna interrupt with a few more questions.
Please.
Okay, so Nancy White wants to know, can I make this without alcohol?
Yes, you can. So Nancy, without alcohol, I would say do a little bit more lemon juice. I might add a little bit of orange juice to it. So just to kind of amp up the citrus thing, absolutely you don't have to do any alcohol.
Great, okay. Deb Adams asks, if you don't have a food processor, what else can you use?
If you don't have a food processor, I would use a pastry cutter. So the good old-fashioned, pastry cutter with the little, just how you would make a pie. I would do that rather than 2 forks because the butter can be a little bit more challenging. So go with that and then bring it together. Just don't touch it too much, remember.
Okay. And then Justice Sadie asks, is it possible to make the dessert gluten-free without the flour? And what would be some good substitutes?
Yes. I would say, again, with gluten-free, it's challenging just to substitute one-on-one the recipes. So this recipe is made with flour. But what I would probably do is try an almond flour. So I would say, you know, maybe you can look up some recipes online with some almond flour, add the coconut, or coconut flour could be great too, but just make sure to check the quantities. But absolutely, that would be a way to go.
Okay. And, oh, I'm not going to pronounce this right, so I just won't.
Yes.
Can we add vanilla with the lemon?
Oh, yes, 100%. I would say go with a vanilla bean. If you're not going to use a vanilla bean, I would say vanilla extract at the very end when it's off the heat, because then you're going to keep that aroma.
Okay.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right, so here we are. You see how easy this is, tactile. You know, again, I'm not touching it too much, but it was very easy to roll out, and that's the whole idea. So I like to roll with the French rolling pin. You can use the other ones that have the ball bearings either way. You just want to make sure it's even. At home when you make this, you want a super, super thin pastry. So probably 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch. You don't want it to be too thick. And if you don't have little special pastry molds, you can just use one of these little aluminum muffin tins. You don't want to use something that has really high sides because it's not going to bake properly. So you put them in, and again, this is something in pastry that you do often, is you just press them down gently again. And the recipe does not say to add pie weights, but if you want, what I do is take a fork, just poke in the bottom here, just like that. That just lets the air out and stops it from coming up. And then I put this in the freezer for 20 minutes, and then I cut in a couple of little pieces of foil with some dried beans and press them in. 20 minutes in the freezer, then they go in the oven. So that keeps it from shrinking back too much. That's a really critical part. And then once you do that, you're gonna have, I mean, we have an array of beautiful ones here, but this would be my ideal size. So if you have these great little perfect little tartlet shells, this is really what the recipe is designed for. A small little mouthful. Maybe you can have 2. I'm not saying. There's nothing against that. But I think that's really the nice size of it. And you can find some of these are singly just little aluminum disposable, a little bit more challenging. But you can make it in a muffin tin like that as well. Okay? So now I'm going to say, ladies, start your engines.
So this is what the final dishes look like with the turkey burger and the beautiful salad with the halloumi cheese croutons. Amazing. Final touches.
Great. Final little touches. We can put just a couple little sage leaves here. But look at that guy.
Beautiful. This is actually for me.
This is for
amazing.
you. Yes, it is.
I hope everyone at home had fun with
you
us.
guys had fun. It was so much fun.
Thank you so much, Christine, for doing
you.
such an amazing job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dairy Farmers of Canada for making this possible. This is amazing. When you are shopping for cheese, please remember to look for the little blue cow. Make sure that you're getting 100% Canadian milk. And thank you so much to each and every one of you for tuning in and sharing your questions and your beautiful recipes. We loved it. Thank you.
It was really, really fantastic. I was so happy to be with you, and I want my hands on that Louis Latour.
Yeah, we're coming over.
I'm coming over. I'm going to find you. Thank you. It was really a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. It was so much fun. Yay! Canadian cheese. Woo! So good.
Bon appetit.
guys. Say
Say
cheese.
cheese.
How can we miss that? Say cheese.
I know.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh my God. All right. Mamma mia. Okay.